Hello everyone. In today's lecture, we will discuss about what are the limitations of fiscal policy, right? So here there are few points I have shown in your screen. So here you can see some of the limitations. So the first limitation is lack of elasticity. So lack of elasticity is regarding every point which we have discussed earlier, right? Like taxation system of the underdeveloped countries is not so modern, rational, which is basically rational and elastic, right? So it is very difficult, or it becomes difficult to earn adequate revenue by the way of taxes in those economies. So a very small, fraction of the population is covered by the tax net basically. So lack of elasticity is basically a problem faced by the economy uh, regarding the measurement or extent of the fiscal policy. And the second here you can see the non-monetized or the non-monetized sector, right? Or a part of the economy, is non-monetized. This sector of the economy, always remains unaffected by the fiscal policy. So this is basically a problem with the success of the fiscal policy, right? And the third here you can see the inadequate statistics. So, in the absence of the accurate stats or statistics in the underdeveloped countries, it becomes very difficult to measure its scope, or the measure the scope of fiscal policy. So, it's a limitation, right? So, the next here you can see the illiteracy, right? So because of the rampant illiteracy in the underdeveloped countries, most of the people fail to appreciate the importance of the fiscal policy. So it is basically a qualitative phenomena or qualitative aspect. They try their best to evade the taxes, or every time they spread some rumors because of illiteracy. So this kind of point, sometimes create a limitation for the fiscal policy, right? And here again you can see the limited scope. Fiscal policy has its effect on the limited sectors. So most of the sectors in the economy remain unaffected by it. For example, in India, burden of taxation is borne by the urban sector. Agricultural sector enjoys its freedom or exemption from it. So these kind of factors, creates the limitation in its scope, right? So again here, next you can see the lack of accurate forecasting. So the effective application of the fiscal policy is conditioned by the accurate forecasting of depression, boom situations, but due to diverse factors, sometimes it's not possible to make any accurate forecast. So such implementation of the fiscal policy, becomes restricted, like, right? So the next factor limitation you can see the delay of decisions. In the democratic countries, decisions regarding fiscal measures must have the prior approval of the legislative assemblies or the parliament. So it takes a long time. It's a very time consuming process. So fiscal policy decisions are delayed in this respect. So besides, there's a time lag between the enforcement of the fiscal policy and its effect on the output employment. You can see it worse, right? So in the next point you can see the conflicting trends in the public and private sectors. There are always conflicting trends in the public and private sector, in the mixed economy like India. So suppose the public investment is increased to remove the depression and unemployment in the economy. So what will happen? The demand for the factors of production will increase, and so for their prices also. So because of rise in the factor cost, amount of the profit in the private sector will fall. So which will definitely discourage the investment in the private sector also. So fall in the investment in the private sector will neutralize the effect of rise in the investment in the public sector. So what will happen, thus the fiscal policy will prove ineffective. So there is a conflictive trend which you know decreases the impact of the fiscal policy or reduces the importance of fiscal policy. The next you can see the limitations of the fiscal policy relating to full employment. So fiscal policy pertaining to full employment uh, always bristles with the limitations. For example, if I say fiscal policy relating to full employment leads to rise in wage rate. Because of this rise, monopolists increase their prices instead of increasing the production. So consequently, what will happen? The value of employment multiplier falls, and employment does not increase to the desired extent. So always there would be a problem of structure in unemployment, which is not possible to be solved only by taking the measure through the fiscal policy, right? So again, you can see the next point is number 10, conflict between the social and other economic objectives. Fiscal policy may come into conflict with the social and economic policies. Sometimes what happened that during the period of depression, uh, it is advisable or it happens the government spends large resources on the public work programs. So, however, during boom dip period, public expenditure is discontinued or it reduces. So, it always gives the adverse effect for the social and economic welfare. So, it is always conflicting between the social and other economic objective, right? Here you can see the increase in public debt. What happens with a view to solve the problem of depression and unemployment, the government resorts to the large scale public debt, right? So which what will happen of that? It will give rise to the various problems relating to management of public debt. So these problems enhance monetary and the real burden of the public debt. Means what happens that sometimes there is increase in public debt and sometimes there is decrease in public debt. So sometimes conflicts may increase due to that, right? So last is problem of deficit financing. Most of the time the government in the underdeveloped countries uh, resort to large scale deficit financing as a fiscal measure for the economic development, or deficit financing, you know, beyond a particular limit becomes a potent source of inflation sometimes. Because what happened that during the time of deficit financing, government may issue some few fresh currency notes, right, which will increase the supply of money in the market, you know, which will increase the purchasing power of public in the market. And when the purchasing power will increase, definitely the demand will increase. Definitely what will happen, the prices will rise. uh, Definitely spending will get high. So sometimes it may give the problem of inflation also, right? So deficit financing has an adverse effect on the economic development sometimes, right? So in short, we can say that fiscal policy is used as a powerful weapon by every country to achieve the objective of economic development and stabilization. So fiscal policy itself is a tool used by the government to improve the economic development, to improve the full employment level, to reduce the gap between the income and the wealth, to reduce the regional disparities. So, no doubt, fiscal policy always helps a lot to improve all these, right? And we here I want to share data with all of you, which I had left in my earlier lecture. Here you can see the statistical data of the fiscal deficit, right? We are covering this point of fiscal deficit. So here you can see the fiscal deficit is rising year by year, which is creating a very negative situation for the economy. You know, if it has been increasing, so it's a structural, or more, it's a fundamental problem for the country, right? So it's a very negative situation. In the Yeah, we have already covered all the points in my earlier lecture of the fiscal policy. So, fiscal policy, if we talk about the deficit, so sometimes it may prove useful to boost up the circle. The savings will increase, the government will issue the bonds to correct the position of the deficit funding. But the same I said, if it has been increasing year by year, it will give the negative impact on the economy, right? So that's all for the today's lecture. Thank you all.